Good evening. I'm Pastor Vernon Shazier, aka the Gospel Cowboy. Thank you for joining me once again this evening for our weekly Bible huddle. As always, I hope you've had a champion day up to this moment. Um, we're going to be talking about a topic tonight that has been on my mind heavy the last few months, and I've been presented with a multitude of questions about it. And so I want to give some attention and time to it tonight. As always, you should come to Bible study with your Bible, something to write with and something to write on. We're in a political season in America, and everywhere you turn or listen, there are ads running on radio stations, on television stations. I'm pretty sure some of you are getting texts about candidates and asking for your support. I want to talk tonight from the subject, does leadership ethics matter to you? Does leadership ethics matter to you? And I'll give you a text, Romans chapter 13, verses 8 through 10. Romans 13, verses 8 through 10. Let's pray and then we'll get it started. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your goodness. Out of your goodness flows your mercy and your grace. Let our time tonight be productive. Let it be challenging. And let it be also transformative. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Uh, as I just stated, I'm pretty sure many of you may be tired, may be ready for this season to pass, but we are in a voting season in America, and everybody is soliciting our vote. Leaders are. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm concerned with a lot of what I'm seeing that's taking place across the landscape of politics, the landscape of leadership, and most importantly, the landscape of America. I'm aiming at leadership because I am under the belief that a lot of the behavior that we're seeing take place in society is a reflection upon leadership. We just had an event, tragic event, where a young man broke into the house of Miss Pelosi, attacked her husband. Are you okay with that? I was watching the news earlier today here in Florida, South Florida. Two men attacked someone who was a supporter of Marco Rubio. Are you okay with that? We've seen the horrific event that took place on the Capitol. Are you okay with that? What's happening in your town? What's happening in your city? What's happening in your state? I don't know where all you're viewing from this evening, but everywhere you look, there are behaviors that are taking place that are clearly unacceptable, behavior that is hateful. We see comments being made, statements being made that are caustic and corrosive. We see advertisement being ran that is deceitful and mean and hateful. We see this behavior that seems to be growing at a rapid pace, seems to be a fire that is escalating very quickly in America. And I want to suggest to you that what we're seeing happening down on the ground level is a reflection of leadership on the high and the top level. We have a question, Belinda. Give it to me. Okay, what was the question? Question is, do I think the tragic events is a direct result of leadership? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's why tonight I want to talk about leadership ethics. And that's why I'm asking you the question, does leadership ethics matter anymore? Are we just willing to vote and give anybody our vote? Your vote, if you know how valuable your vote is, do you know how valuable your vote is? It's so valuable that people have died for it. It's so valuable that people are still sacrificing for it. It's so valuable that people are still fighting with everything they can to keep you from having the right to vote and the right to exercise your vote and make it as difficult as they can for you to get to the poll and participate in the process of voting. Your vote is valuable, and right now you have so many people that are asking for your vote. But I'm asking you, does leadership ethics matter to you? Or are you just going to go into the booth and vote for whatever your party says, who your party says you're supposed to vote for, what policies your party says you're supposed to vote for? I'm concerned, and you should be concerned about what we're seeing happening on leadership, how we see leaders, the character of leadership, the integrity of leadership, the respect in leadership. It is on a fast, deep, dark decline. It was a time where we wanted our leaders to have some high moral traits. But, it appears that that doesn't matter anymore. What's more important is, do you agree with me? What's more important is what the party says. Leadership ethics. Let me give you a definition of ethics for tonight's discussion. It's morally right behavior and character. Ethics is concerned with the kind of values and morals an individual, a culture, or a society believes is appropriate. And since the 1960s, ethical failures of leaders have become more and more apparent. And it's getting worse. Have you seen how some of our leaders behave? I mean, you got to ask yourself now. You don't listen. It don't matter what party you're affiliated with. It should not be difficult for you to see, look at, analyze what happened at the Capitol and say there is something wrong with this picture. A 10-year-old, a 9-year-old can do that, has that capacity. Yet when you can have hundreds of leaders who dismiss it and support it, something is wrong. I know the problem is that on the leadership level, but the reason why I'm posing these questions and interrogatives to you is because we are the one, you and I, we are the ones who vote. They cannot sit in that seat and exercise that power. They cannot sit in that seat and behave unethical if we don't put them in that seat or if we take them out of those seats. They're behaving this way because there is a group of people in our society who is saying it's okay. And I know ethics is a topic where there's a lot of tension because to a great degree it's subjective. But can I suggest to you that what we're seeing happen in America is the dark side of leadership. We have a leadership crisis in America. And I'm asking you, are you okay with it? I'm asking you tonight, does ethics matter? I mean, I've had conversations with individuals who say, I don't care about the character. Long as my money is all right, long as my business is all right. You don't care about your leader's character? Most times, leaders with bad character, bad ethics, bad morals, they make bad decisions and they do bad things that impact society, that impacts the lives of their constituents. But we seem to turn our eyes away, ignore, or we only speak out when it impacts us in a negative way. I'm asking you a question tonight. And if you haven't, please share this Bible huddle with your family, your social media family. This is a serious question and conversation we're having tonight. Does leadership ethics matter to you? Are you okay with the leaders in your city, in your town, on your state level, on a national level, operating and living with low morals, low ethics? And are you willing to say something more than when it's just a situation or a policy that impacts you or your group? And really, this is something I struggle with, and I don't know if I'll never be able to understand it from a church perspective. I don't know how congregants sit up under leadership that is just clearly unethical and have low morals and repeatedly display them. I don't understand how people, you know, who are part of a group where there are broad gaps when it comes to equality in employment, when it comes to equality in healthcare, when it comes to equality in education, when it comes to equality in banking, when it comes to equality in policing, when it comes to equality, when it comes to laws that are passed, and sentencing, when it comes to equality in voting rights, when it comes to equality in housing, and you can sit up under a leader and they never say anything about the social and economic issues that are oppressing you and your people or any people. You're saying It's okay. Now, y'all should have some questions for me tonight. Y'all ought to talk back to me. I'm asking you some questions. Are you okay? Does leadership ethics matter anymore? Because what I'm saying to you tonight and arguing tonight is what we're witnessing in America is the dark side of leadership. And I'm getting ready to unpack that statement, the dark side of leadership. Something is wrong when leadership is okay with racism, when leadership is okay with white supremacy, when leadership is okay with any group of people being oppressed. Something is wrong when leadership is not interested in everyone having equality and being treated with dignity. Well, I'm posing these questions to you and I because we're the ones who are going into the booths. And that's where we answer this question that I'm asking you tonight. Are you okay? I don't listen, and let me say this to those who are to the church folk. I don't care what your pastor tell you. I don't care what your leaders say to you. You should not be voting or giving your vote, because your vote is valuable, to a leader who is unethical and immoral. Yes, yes, I said that. Because here, again, we're dealing with the dark side of leadership. There are leaders even in the church that dismiss evil, dismiss racism, dismiss injustice, dismiss immoral behavior, unethical behavior, because they have committed themselves to a particular party. They are more committed to the party of blue or the party of red than they are to the Bible and to God. And they have conditioned a large percentage or portion of their parishioners to just vote blue or vote red and ignore all of the issues that exist, that are real, that are in our face. But they want your vote. Right now, the Supreme Court is talking about and having a discussion about getting rid of affirmative action. Listen, if there's one thing we've learned, or we should have learned, is this here. Without coercion, people in power will not do right. Have they ever done right without some type of coercion? No. Every advancement of equality that has happened when it comes to people of color, it has happened and it was achieved by some type of coercion. The people in power did not have a meeting among themselves and say, you know what we're doing is unethical, is immoral, is unjust. Let's stop doing this. Let's treat people with dignity. Let's treat people like they're human beings. Let's be fair. Let's have fair and equitable laws and policies when it comes to housing, and let's stop redlining communities, and let's stop denying people loans, and giving one group loans and the other group of people, we don't want them to have home ownership. Have they ever had a meeting and said, this is wrong, let's just do it? You know what? People should have access to health care. Let's do something that gives everybody access to health care. No, they don't do it. They won't do it. They never have done it. So how do we get them to do it? Your vote. Say it again. Your vote is powerful. And they understand the power of voting. What? Look at what you got. Actually, let me show you how valuable. Let me tell you how valuable your vote is. They've been willing to kill through all types of manners. They've been able to. They've been willing to strike fear. They've been willing to do all types of unethical things. I'm talking about those who want to remain in power to keep others from voting, from allowing everyone to have the right to vote, because they understand how powerful and valuable your vote is. They may understand it more than you do. Why? Because here's here, here's a major role that politicians play. They engage in the exercise of deciding how resources are distributed. They make critical decisions about laws and policies that impact the lives of citizens. Why don't they want people to have, or some people to have, access to vote? To maintain power. Yeah, I believe that anybody that pays taxes should have the right to vote. But America has created and continue to try to find ways to keep people from voting and make it difficult for people to vote. I mean, if someone commits a felony and they deserve to serve a sentence, I believe that's fair. But I believe it's unfair and unethical after they've paid their penalty by serving the sentence for you to tell them they can't vote, but you still want them to pay taxes. That's unethical. See, all that is created to keep suppressing people from voting. All of these laws. You think Jim Crow has gone away? Jim Crow hasn't gone away. You think slavery has been abolished? Slavery has not been abolished. It's just they just put new names on it. They just wrap it differently. What you think the prison system is? It's still their way of getting free labor. The whole system is corrupt. It's not fair. It's not just. The sentencing is not just and fair. Never has been, never will be. People of color gets longer sentences than others. Again, I'm sharing this with you and having this conversation because you have to go in that booth. Those of us who have the right to vote, we have to go in that booth. And I'm suggesting to you, do not ignore what you see. Do not ignore what you hear. Are you okay with a leader who demeans children? Are you okay with a leader who treats people of another race immoral? immigrants, immoral. Are you okay with a leader, with leaders who just flat out, bold-faced lie? We're dealing with the dark side of leadership in America. And the way to address leadership, political leadership, is by voting. It's by letting your voice be heard. They're not going to do it on their own, those who are in power. The oppressor, listen to me, I'm getting ready to say something. I want you to hear it real clear. You may want to write it down. You may want to record it. Well, it's been recorded for you. But I'm getting ready to say something to you, and I want you to get it, and you better memorize it. Anyone who oppresses you will never voluntarily free you. No oppressor. You go through history, study history, take a history course. You read history, you will never find an oppressor who voluntarily took his foot off the neck of the oppressed. No. Mm-mm. Never has happened, never will happen. Let me talk about this dark side. Y'all don't have any questions for me tonight? Y'all mighty quiet. What have you seen? What have you seen that bothers you? What are you seeing that's disturbing to you in leadership? There's nothing? Nothing concerns you about what's happening in leadership in America? When I talk about the dark side of leadership, what I'm talking about is the toxic triangle. Let me describe that toxic triangle for you. If you can, just picture a triangle. At the top of that triangle is a destructive leader. Or in this context, we can speak plural, or leaders. America is in the dark space, a dark place, the dark side of leadership. And what that means is that America has found itself and allowed itself to get to a place where it is in a toxic triangle. Now I'm getting ready to unpack and deal with this triangle. At the top of the triangle, whenever you have a toxic triangle, whenever you have leadership that has had influence on a level in which their toxicity has flown and dripped downward into the people, and the people now behave like they behave, think like they think, and have lost, appear or seem to lost morals, good ethics. So at the top of that toxic triangle is destructive leaders. I'm going to explain to you why America is on the dark side of leadership. What is a destructive leader? What are some characteristics of destructive leaders? Well, one, you got to be careful because some of them are charismatic. They got a lot of charisma. They smooth talkers. But one of the characteristics also is that they have an infatuation and deep love for power. And they'll do anything to get it. And they'll do anything to hold on to it. Again, remember what I said politicians do? They decide who gets what and how much. They decide how resources are distributed. They decide what policies are accepted or not accepted. Policies that affect the social and economic life of all people. You got to ask yourself, why do or why would a person spend $100 million of their own money to get a job that only pays $200,000? You don't see anything curious about that picture? Say it again. You have people who are spending $100 million to get a job that only pays $200,000. Why is that? Because them sitting in that seat, them getting and allowed to sit in that seat, occupy that seat, give them access and control to billions of dollars. And they're able to impact and decide where those billions and trillions of dollars flow and who they flow to. At the top of the toxic triangle, that you always gonna have destructive leaders. Be careful, because many of them have a lot of charisma. They're smooth talkers, but they have an infatuation for power, and they'll do anything for power. They'll steal, they'll lie, they'll deceive you, they'll mislead you to keep that power. Can I tell you another characteristic of destructive leaders? Most of them, they're narcissists. They're narcissistic. Yeah, they're in love with themselves, infatuated with themselves. And most people who have a toxic ethic, you also find out and discover that they have an ideology of hate towards certain groups of people. We're talking about characteristics of toxic leaders or a toxic leader. You have to be careful. You got to watch them now. You got to watch them not with just both eyes, but with your third eye. You can't just listen to them with both ears, but you got to listen to them with a third ear. Because some of them are real smooth talkers. They got a great sale game, but they love power. They're infatuated with power. They're narcissistic. They idolize hatred against other parties or people. But let me show you how this toxic triangle develops. So you have at the top this destructive leader or leaders, but at another end of the triangle, you have susceptible followers. That's what we saw happen. That young man who entered into Miss Pelosi's house, he was a susceptible follower. Those young men who attacked Mark Rubio's supporter, I don't care what you care, whether you agree with or disagree with somebody's policies, you should not engage in violence or anything unethical. You have to ask yourself, teenager, 15, 16, 18 years old, they already have learned how to hate. See, when you have susceptible followers, they become conformers. See, destructive leaders will always find some susceptible followers. What do I mean? I'm talking about followers who will embrace their bad values, followers who embrace similar world views, followers who are ambitious enough to go and carry out acts on behalf of the leader. Again, that incident at the Capitol, you saw thousands of susceptible followers who was influenced by a leader, and they went and carried out his wishes. So here's the triangle. At the top, you have a destructive leadership. On another corner, you have susceptible followers. But let me start. Let me deal with that followers right there before I move on. What leaders are you following, and why? Because this may be an opportunity for you to evaluate what leaders you're supporting, following, voting for, plan on voting for. Are you okay with their ethics? See, we got to get beyond. You know what? Um, I don't care how they behave, as long as they pass policy that I agree with. As long as their politics line up with mine. Well, I promise you, all their politics won't be good politics. Are you more in love with the party of red and the party of blue than you are in love with justice and equality? And again, I don't know, maybe one day I'll figure it out and be able to understand it better. But I really don't understand how many of us sit up under leadership that supports white supremacy, that supports racism, that all year they preach sermons all year, Sunday after Sunday, and they never address the wide gap, the injustice that takes place in your community and the lives of people who look like you on a social and economic level. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how some of y'all, I don't know how y'all do it. I don't know how your cousins, aunts, I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I don't know how, I don't know what people who attend church like Paula White, I don't know what they get them to drink at the door. I really don't. It's mind blowing. So we have in this toxic triangle, at the top you have destructive leadership. At another corner you have susceptible followers. Are you following? Are you interested in following leaders that have high ethics? Let's deal with the other part of the triangle, because this is how it all comes together. When you have a destructive leader and you have susceptible followers, in order for the toxic triangle to be completed, you need to have a conducive environment. In other words, you need to have an environment that is unstable. And right now, America is an environment that is not stable. You need to have an environment where the lack of checks and balance and effectiveness when it comes to policy and procedures are not in place. You need to have an environment where a perceived threat causes people to tremble and fear. And right now, we clearly have that type of environment. I mean, look at what they're saying. So you got to listen to the rhetoric. They're using fear. They're creating an environment of fear so that followers will follow these toxic and destructive leaders. A destructive leader, he or she, most cases will create an environment of fear that will get you to follow. What are they saying? Socialism. And here's the thing. This is why history is so important, man. I I just finished reading the book The Color of Money. And it goes all the way back to the 1600s. And as I was reading through that book, all of the tactics, all of the rhetoric that they used hundreds of years ago, they're still using it today, and it's still working. They're still, one group is still being told, you're a superior race of people. One group is still being told, be careful, they're going to turn the country into communism or socialism. They're still using the same verbiage. Watch out for the liberals. Watch out for the fundamentalists. Watch out for the left. Watch out for the right. Where we are now in an environment in America where fear is pumping through the veins of American citizens. And it's fear that's causing us to not only behave unethical, but turn our head away from unethical behavior in leadership. Your vote is so valuable. And that's one of the points I want you to take away tonight, is that your vote is valuable. Why is it that a certain group of people do not want you to vote, do not want people to have access to vote, constantly create laws and policies to prevent people to vote, make it difficult to vote. Why? I want y'all to understand what's going on. I want you to understand the why. It's important that you understand the why in life. It's because they do not want to lose power and control over the distribution of resources. They do not want to lose power and control over legislation and what laws are written. That's why you need to not sit home. This whole attitude, things not getting any better, my vote not going to make a difference, so I'm not going to vote. No, no, no. That's what they want you to do. You should not only vote because your vote is valuable, you should be encouraging every person you know who is eligible to vote. You should be encouraging your children, your grandchildren, when they are of legal age, to register to vote and to consistently exercise their right to vote, not just when it's time for a president, but on all levels. You got to ask yourself, this is, again, I just finished reading this book, The Color of Money. And what was troubling about it is 100 years ago, there was a wide gap between people of color and white America when it comes to employment, when it comes to access to health care, when it comes to quality education, when it comes to finance, banking, banks giving you a loan so you can have home ownership, when it comes to policing, when it comes to sentencing, when it comes to the voting and the right to vote, when it comes to housing. That what was taking place, these were the issues 100 years ago. These were the issues 50 years ago. These was the issues that Dr. King and Malcolm and Medgar Evers, all of these individuals, and John and Kennedy, these were the issues that they was addressing that caused them to be assassinated and murdered. The problem is, then what's troubling is that these issues that existed, these social and economic gaps, these social and economic issues that existed 100 years ago, 50 years ago, they're still the same today. Have we made some progress? But not enough. Those same gaps still exist. Something is wrong with that picture. 100 years ago, they did not want you to have access to quality education. They did not want you to vote or have the right to vote. Have they changed their ideology? No. Their ideology is still the same. Don't want you to vote. And if you do have the right to vote, let's make it as difficult as hell as we can for you to vote. Because your vote is powerful. Your vote is valuable. Isn't it? I found that so disturbing when I finished reading that book. When you start reading history, one of the things you immediately realize is that issues, again, that our foreparents had to deal with 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and even further, we're still dealing with today. Banks are still corrupt and unequitable and behave in unjust ways and have unjust practices when it comes to the lending of money and financing small businesses. Healthcare is still a gap. A woman still is dealing with the same issue she dealt with 50 years ago. She can do the same job as a man, but they don't want to pay her the same wage. Those of you who live in Florida, I want you to ask yourself, what does the governor mean when he says we want to keep Florida free, or free Florida? What does he mean? I'm not sure. I'm not free. Free from who? Free from what? And those of you who are willing to vote for anybody who will promise you something for free, you need to be careful too. There's nothing free. Somebody has to pay for it. This whole idea of we're going to give you, and again, it's all lies. It's all lies and deception. That goes back to ethics. Leaders run campaigns every year promising to give you a ton of free stuff, knowing they can't give you those things. Free, 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 free. No, no. Somebody has to pay for it. I'm talking to those of you who are on the right and the left. Those of you who support the party of red and the party of blue. If you're so deeply in love and infatuated with your party and the leaders of your party that ethics no longer matters, you've become a part of a toxic triangle. You've become a part and a victim and a participant of the dark side of leadership. I want to read Romans. I got to give you some Bible tonight. I want to read Romans 13, verses 8 through 10 to you. This is from the New International Version. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For he who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law. The commandments: do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not covet, and whatever other commandments there may be, are summed up in this one rule: love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, Paul said, I can tell you a whole lot. I can give you a whole lot of list of things to do and not to do. But let me just sum it up. Make it real short and sweet for you. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Let me give you some principles that I believe is key when it's come to ethical leadership. I'm going to give you some principles. I want you to think about this when you are assessing a leader, when you're thinking about following a leader, supporting the leader. Here 5 things I want to share with you before I let you go. Ethical leadership respects others. What you are seeing, what we're seeing happen in America is a disgrace, and it's embarrassing. Other countries look at our leadership and they describe them as clowns. Ethical leadership respects others. I didn't say they agree with everything another person or another party or another group promotes, but there's a level of respect. When you see leaders calling out other leaders' names and saying constant corrosive things, that's not ethical leadership, or not high ethical leadership. Ethical leadership not only respects others, it's willing to serve others. And when I say serve others, I mean it's willing to serve more than just people who look like them, more than just people who think like them, more than just people who are part of their party or their group. Ethical leadership understands that you have a responsibility to try to do the best you can for all people. I mean, just after all, think about this here. When somebody wins a presidency or wins a political seat, in most cases, they may win by 10%. So that means there was a whole, even 20%. That means there was a whole lot of other people that didn't vote for you. But you still have a responsibility if you're an ethical leader and you're trying to operate and walk in a high level of ethics, you still understand, listen here, I know everybody didn't vote for me, but I'm going to do the best that I can for everybody. I'm going to do the best that I can to help everybody have healthy social and economic situations. Another characteristic of high leadership ethics is they show justice. They show justice. Another one is they're honest. A lot of the ads you're seeing now, they're lies. The radical left, the radical liberals, they're going to take your guns away. I'm going to give you everything for free. I mean, that's what you get. You know, one side, they use fear, make you scared of everything. The other side, sometimes they just promise you everything for free. And they know they're not going to be able to make good on those promises. But I'm just trying to get in the seat. I'm just trying to get that vote from you. A lot of the advertisement you see, here's what you're seeing. Here's what you're listening to. You're seeing a dash of truth. There's always some truth in a lie. There's some element of truth in a lie. You're seeing some truth and some lie in that commercial. in that advertisement ad. I mean, when I see an ad and hear an ad that says that this particular person agrees with everything somebody else believes. Now you know that's a lie. That's totally dishonest. I don't believe that there's no political leader that believes everything that another political leader promotes. I'm gonna give you one more, and I hope you wrote these 5 things down when you think about what ethical leadership is. Again, if you didn't write it down, let me get to again. 1, they, they respect others. 2, they're willing to serve others. 3, they show justice. 4, they're, they're honest. And the 5th one is they seek to build community. They seek to bring people together and not separate people, not create fraction and division. America is in a civil war, if you haven't figured it out yet. We are divided. We are fractured. And the people who are leading us, who have led us into this place and continue to lead us in this place is leadership. And so, as my time comes to a close, I pose this question to you once more. Does leadership ethics matter to you? I hope it does. And please, if you're eligible to the vote, vote. Why? Because your vote is powerful and your vote is valuable. Listen, as always, I thank you for spending this time with me. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but you chose to spend this time with me. I hope you was educated. I hope you was informed. I hope you was challenged. I hope I said something that may lead to transformation in your life. And I look forward to sharing a word with you Sunday. And if you're ever in our part of town, what we call the Treasure Coast, please come and experience an in-person worship with us. I believe you'll be blessed by the word and the worship experience. Listen, I'm Vernon Shazier, aka the Gospel Cowboy. I hope you have a champion week.